voiceamerica.com.
Welcome to Crime Prevention 101 with host Susan Bartelstone. We're so happy you've joined us this weekend. Over the next hour, you'll learn the tips, tricks, and vital information that'll help you keep yourself confident and safe. Now, here's the host of Crime Prevention 101, Susan Bartelstone.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to Crime Prevention 101. And yes, this is Susan Bartelstone here talking with you today. And I'm all alone today because none of my partners in crime are with me. They weren't able to break out of jail in time to be on the show with me, but that's okay because I love just being here, you and I together. And I have a really great show for you today. Just let me tell you a little story that pertains to this show. Back in the 70s, the early 70s, when Golda Meir was the Prime Minister of Israel, all of a sudden there was some kind of outbreak of nighttime assaults against women, and one of the cabinet ministers suggested that there be a curfew to keep women home after dark. But Golda Meir just absolutely refused this, and she said that, since it's the men who are attacking the women, let the men stay home at night under a curfew. Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Put the blame for rape and sexual assault where it belongs, and then do something about it. Now, my guest today, special guest today, he is the executive director of a Washington, D.C.-based organization which is called Men Can Stop Rape, and they are trying to do just that. And they are changing the attitude of thousands of young men and boys with just this message. And his name is Stephen Glaude, and I'm going to be introducing him to you in just a few minutes. But before I do, I have an item that I thought was interesting that I'd like to share with you. And on my show a few weeks ago, if any of you caught that show, I talked about some inexpensive signs that you could have made up that will kind of psych out a burglar. Maybe give him pause if he's casing your house, or maybe make him go on to another house. So I have another psych out here that I thought was pretty good. Now, I found this tip on a website called Just Yell Fire. And that's justyellfire.com, actually. And this is a great website. If you get a chance, you got to check this thing out. It's especially good for young girls. A lot of teens on this website, and they post on this website. And here was their suggestion for a psych out, especially if you live alone in a house. And what they said was, get yourself a big, big, big dog bowl, like as if you had a big dog. And they say put the name, like Daisy, that's what they suggested, in magic marker on the bowl. And put this dog bowl out in front of the house to make a burglar think that you have a really big dog. Now, I do like the idea of the dog bowl, but I don't think Daisy is a very tough-sounding name for a dog, a big hungry dog. I'd rather you put something like Killer on the bowl, or Cujo, from that Stephen King novel, or even Rocky or Spike or something like that. I'm not going to be afraid of Daisy, but I might take pause if I saw Killer on that bowl. And then they said get a large pair of man's boots, big size, kind of dirty them up, and put them in the back door. So there you got big, tall man in the back and big, hungry dog bowl in the front, and that's a pretty good psych out there, and I think that might actually work. I like that idea. And talking about the dogs also, because I had mentioned a lot about the dogs in the first couple of shows. Somebody asked me the other day, well, what would you do if you saw, an unleashed dog that was getting aggressive with you? So I thought maybe that I'd like to give you some dog tips here. And one of the things that you really want to do if you encounter an aggressive-looking dog, you got to stand still, and you got to be really quiet, and by all means avoid eye contact with that dog, because, and we tell you to make eye contact if you're in a dangerous situation with a human being, but with the dog you want to avoid that, because that is perceived as right away as a sign of aggression. You also don't want to run because now you're the chew toy. You know how you throw the stick and the dog runs after it? Unless you've got a place that you can run to immediately and slam the door, don't run. You're going to stand still, and if the dog continues to approach you, give him commands. Sit. No. Go home. Very forceful, very low, very forceful. All the while, start looking for something that you can use as a shield, maybe a big pocketbook or a briefcase or a garbage can lid if you're outside, or something that you can pick up in case that dog actually does jump at you. Another thing that you might want to do, if you've got a raincoat or coat or sweater or jacket or anything, wrap that around your arm, because if worse comes to worse and the dog does attack, once your arm is wrapped and sheathed, it's going to be protected. And you can allow the dog to go for that limb. And you want to really think about this hard, because your first instinct is going to be to try to jerk it. And the more you jerk your arm away, the harder and the tighter that dog is going to clamp down on it. What you're going to have to do instead is you're going to have to take whatever object you can find, and you have to really bash that dog over the head. This is a hard choice, and it's a hard subject, but getting bit by a dog and attacked by a dog is a very serious, can be a very serious thing. So you protect your arm with the shirt or the piece of clothing, and you're going to have to do something to get that dog, to discourage that dog, and you're going to have to hit that dog pretty hard. So that's my dog tips. And as always, by the way, please remember that no absolutes exist in a crime scenario, and I can't give anyone advice that's going to address every variable. You're going to have to really evaluate the situation, each one individually, and only respond in the way that you instinctively judge the best. It's my aim on this show, to provide you with the information and the options that's going to help you make an instinctive assessment really quickly. I want to also go back to some tips that I had, and since we are talking about rape today, I've got a couple of success stories that I'd like to give you before I introduce Stephen Glaude. And this one I thought this was really great. It came from the Los Angeles Times, and the heading was "Mother and Daughter Use Beer to Escape Attacker." And what happened, and these were not, this was a 45-year-old woman and her 71-year-old mother, and this guy broke in the house, and he turned out to be a convicted child molester. So he was a bad character, and he was assaulting them, he was choking them. And the mother, the 71-year-old mother, smelled liquor on his breath. So she goes, well, wait a minute, calm down here. How about a beer? And she talked him into letting her go and getting him the beer. And this is what we call using your brains instead of your muscles. And this is what I specialize in my workshops. And she convinced him to have a beer, and the daughter convinced him to have a beer, and they were sitting around drinking, and she was able, under the pretext of going to the bathroom, she was able to break away and call the police. And that's how she got out of that situation. Using strategy, great technique. And I have another really good article that I found. This is another success story. Girl, 8 years old, bites attacker. And this happened in New York City, and a brave 8-year-old Bronx girl had been grabbed by this guy, and she bit him hard. She kicked, she struggled, she moved around. She was able to get away from this attacker. So it can be done. And I love to bring you these success stories, and I hope that they inspire you like they inspire me. Now I want to tell you a little bit about my guest today, Stephen Glaude. And Stephen, and I'm going to read this. This is his bio here, and I'm going to read this. Stephen is Men Can Stop Rape's newly named president and CEO, and he is the first one to follow in the footsteps of the co-founders of this 10-year-old organization. He was the first African American to serve as president of the National Congress for Community Economic Development, and also the first African American to serve as executive director of the National Association of Neighborhoods. He was the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Community Planning and Development at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I mean, this is just great stuff, right? He was the Special Assistant to the President in the Office of National Drug Control Policy. And he was recently interviewed on the Oprah and Friends radio show, and when he was asked about the work that he's doing to empower men and to end the systemic violence against women, Stephen said, "We have to create some courage around this issue, and we also have to create some champions around this issue." Now, I just love this quote, and I love champions. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Stephen Glaude. Stephen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Stephen. Welcome to Crime Prevention 101. I'm so glad that I'm talking with you today.
Well, I'm so glad that you have me on your show.
Now, Stephen, I have a little story to tell you before we start. And a couple of months ago, I wrote an article that was posted on the web. And in response to that article, now, whenever I write stuff, I always advise people to take self-defense courses to learn how to defend themselves, because I was a self-defense teacher for many years. And this young woman who posted herself as a college advocate, she just raked me over the coals for this. She took me to task. She said learning self-defense is preposterous. She said it's the wrong advice, and that it was the responsibility of men to stop raping, not of women to prevent it. So I answered her post by referring her to Men Can Stop Rape. And
I'm
I
so
told
glad
her
you
that
did.
she had better start working with you guys and take all that passion and go help you out. But I also said, and until women were safe from sexual violence, that she better learn some prevention techniques just in case, right? You know what I'm saying, right?
I think that was a good balance to response.
I like to think so. So, Stephen, please tell me and please tell this audience about Men Can Stop Rape. What's the mission? What's the vision?
Men Can Stop Rape is an international organization now, as we've begun to move into some work abroad, that tries to help men find and use their strength for creating cultures that are free of violence, particularly violence against women. We do this in a number of ways. We work directly with young males, trying to catch attitudes as they're still being fostered.
Now, when you say young, you're talking about what ages?
10 to 18
wow.
is one target population that we deal with. This year we're going into middle schools. We had previously been working with high school students as our youngest population, but we realized we need to start younger. In fact, you mentioned me being at the V-Day in New Orleans, and I shared with that audience that since I
haven't mentioned that yet, but I will. I will mention that in 1 second.
Okay.
Before I let you jump up to there, because we're going to have to tell everybody what V-Day is. Just tell me a little bit. We're going to coming up on a break, but if you can tell me real quickly what made you get involved with this great organization.
Well, throughout my life, there have been women, friends of mine, and family members whom I knew something was wrong. Just some of the normal reactions to physical contact and other forms of both emotional and intellectual intimacy, but I didn't know what. And after years of trust building, I found out that they had been survivors. And I remember having these series of thoughts. Wow, it changes a life forever. No one has the right to change someone's life that way. I believe that if some knew they were changing a life forever, they might make better choices. And why aren't men doing anything about this? And so it was those thoughts, which had been with me for years, that made me, excited when I found that there was a job opening for the director's president's position here, and I passionately pursued it, and I was accepted to be in this position. And I just love the work. I've had great jobs over the past 25 years, but this is
that I told everybody about.
Yeah, this is the best work I've done.
Yeah, you have an absolutely amazing resume here.
Yeah, so it just was a calling. It was a passion.
That's fantastic. All right, we're coming up on a break, Steve, so just hold that thought, and we're going to be right back talking to Stephen Glaude from Men Can Stop Rape.
News, opinion.
Can you hear me?
Your voice counts. Call toll-free 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. VoiceAmerica.com. There's a purpose revolution sweeping the world. Now more than ever before, in the midst of so many things they could do, people are asking what they should do. Since 1991, John Stanko has been helping people all over the world answer these questions. Now, John is bringing his purpose message and philosophy to Voice America, where you will hear from people of purpose like John, who have found what they were created to do. Join John and his guests from around the world every week on his show, Your Purpose Quest, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. Right here on Voice America. After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime, How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.fightsafe.com for more information. You'll also find information there on Susan's upcoming Crime Prevention 101 personal safety teleseminars. Think fast, talk fast, fight smart, which stress the many opportunities you have to deter or defuse a criminal encounter and how to use your brains instead of your muscles in a fight. Look for the new book information or sign up for Susan Bartelstone's personal safety seminars at www.fightsafe.com today.
Adding fractions is nothing.
For real?
Look, these are denominators. You multiply this one so that it's the same as that, then you add them up.
Man, that's easy.
Charles Bennett dreamed of returning to the old neighborhood as a teacher, but without money for college, only half of his dream came true. He's back in the old neighborhood.
Well, enough math. I gotta deliver these sandwiches.
Please support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. A message from the UNCF and the Ad Council.
Have you ever thought about having your own internet talk show? Well, if you said yes, then click About Us. Then click Be a Host to get more information. Or just call Jeff Spenard at 480-294-6417.
Say that again?
480-294-6417. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
And welcome back, everybody. And we're talking with Stephen Glaude from Men Can Stop Rape. And now, Steve, we were talking off air a few days ago, and you were definitely one of the good guys. And the fact that you came up with these realizations to me this points to how the prevention of rape and violence is an issue that men should care about.
Absolutely, and I think
don't even know.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I also think that it goes beyond simple physical violence. I think the larger issue is that of gender equity. I thought I was one of the good guys because I've never hit a woman in my life. I thought I was one of the good guys because sexual assault is inconceivable to me. But then I realized that there's so much more. The larger enemy is the culture which approves this. Not just the individual perpetrator who does it. Of course, the perpetrator is something that we want to, the perpetration is something we want to eliminate. But it's also the culture which condones it, which allows it, which blames the woman. And so men have to address that culture. My realization came that even though I was not a violent person, what was I doing to contribute to that culture which does allow violence and does condone violence? And when you face that different, our line about what makes us a good guy was drawn by people who didn't get it either. So if I had grew up thinking I'm a good guy because I've never hit sexual assaults inconceivable to me, what made me think that made me a good guy? What made me think that there wasn't other ways in which I contributed to the culture? And it is that education that we try to do with young and old men, but also societal systems which help create and keep that culture in place.
And I love getting that message out there by men who are strong and strong-looking and definitely, role models for people. That's what I loved the minute I actually heard someone from your organization speaking about it, and it just bowled me over.
And the key word that you said there is strong men. We realized early on that we could not, in an attempt to make men more sensitive, do something that would take away what they felt was their strength. What we've been helping men to do is redefine what strength is. I mean, for young men, strength is staying in school. Strength is not going to jail. Strength is not being a part of gangs and giving in to peer pressure. Strength is going to college. Strength is not becoming a parent too young in life or being a good parent if, in fact, you have a child. But those are not the typical definitions of strength and messages of strength that young men get. So you're absolutely right. We believe that men have to be strong. We just try to help them redefine what really strong means.
And that's the way you're going to reach them. That's
exactly, because they cannot hear messages that don't suggest to them that they shouldn't be strong.
Exactly. I love it. Now, give me an idea of some of the programs and services that Men Can Stop Rape provide, and about how many people do you think have been reached by these programs so far?
Well, we've reached, I would venture to say, between our combined 4 areas of work, we've reached millions of people, young and old men, women, educators, policymakers, and we do it in 4 pretty succinct ways. One is we deal directly with you through our Men of Strength clubs, which operate in middle schools.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a lot about that.
Middle schools and in high schools. The work in high schools is very powerful. The work in middle schools we think is going to be very differently challenging. And so we deal directly with men by creating a safe space for them to examine what strength and masculinity is and means. In the hallways of a school, a young man can't redefine strength. On a playground, a young man can't redefine strength. And even in the home, a young man can't really redefine strength. So if they're not getting proper messaging in those 3 places, home, school, playground, they're not likely to be able to do it. And so we create a safe space in the schools where they can come and talk and examine and explore this. And what we basically do is, we kind of break down traditional masculinity and we rebuild and reconstruct healthy masculinity. And by having a support system that allows them to do that, particularly in high school, the myths of masculinity have already not worked in most of these young men's lives. Mm-hmm. And the example I always use is, by your junior, senior year in high school, you've hit somebody because they've stepped on your shoe and you've gotten expelled from school, or, you've been in detention for a month in a row. And so when you say that doesn't make sense, and here's the theme we use, is that working for you? Mm-hmm. Because when we hold up the traditional myths about masculinity and the traditional practices and behaviors, and we ask them, is it working for you? Almost all of them say, no, it's not. And so therein lies the beginning of this reconstruction of what strength and masculinity is. So the Men of Strength Clubs is one thing that we do. We also provide consulting and training.
I understand this is in every public high school in Washington, D.C.
It's in every public high school in Washington, D.C. This year we go into the middle schools. We're in New York, California, North Carolina, and Ohio. And we have states lined up who want us to come in and train their faculty and their employees on how to run these clubs. Great. I should say that the Men of Strength Clubs operate on a 22-week curriculum, and it is in that curriculum that we identify what is traditional masculinity, and also reconstruct what we believe to be a healthy discussion of strengths. And so it is curriculum-based, but it also then goes into life choices and life situations which we try to help them navigate. So the second thing we do is consulting and training. We provide training and technical assistance for any organization that's interested in developing men's programming. We teach them how to engage men, how to recruit men. We teach them the dominant theory of masculinity, and we also teach them the process of reconstructing healthy masculinity and identifying new areas of strength that they can lead men to. So that's the second thing. The third thing we do, we realize that messaging is very important. We know that some of the behavior that harms women is coming from videos and news reports and TV shows and magazine ads and so much more. So we have a messaging campaign called My Strength Is Not for Hurting. It is an internationally recognized campaign, and it promotes healthy choices by men in dating situations. I'm very pleased to say that the United States military has just hired us to produce a similar campaign for all 5 branches of the United States military, and we're very excited about that.
10 questions to ask you about that. That is amazing.
And then the last thing we do very quickly is we run campus affiliate programs. We find that the young men value the experiences we've provided them in high school, and they want to continue those experiences into college. But the difference in high school, they learn. By college, they want to become activists. So we help them to develop activities on their college campuses where they, in fact, can recruit and educate other students who have not had the benefit of being exposed to these programs.
And they are having the college men and the high school men being activists is even more powerful than having it come from teachers and from adults.
Absolutely. One of the things we encourage every college campus affiliate to do is, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And what we do in our high schools, what we will do this year in middle schools, and what we do on the college campuses is we get them to undertake what we call a 30 Days of Strength campaign. And during the month of April, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we have them doing some activity on the college campus every day. It could be educational seminars. It could be showing films. It could be handing out literature. In some places, we've had them put anti-assault messages as the screensaver on all the schools' computers.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah. And the schools come up with some very creative things themselves. We give them kind of a template of things they can do, but they get challenged by going far beyond what we suggest to them.
I wish I knew about this aspect of your work for this past April, because I work with a wonderful group in New York City, and we put on, of course, Sexual Assault Awareness Month programs. And next year I am getting you guys down here to co-sponsor this with us.
Absolutely. We would be happy to be there with you, and we are
right in the middle of New York City, and we did it right in Union Square, and I would have loved to have you guys down here.
Count on us to be there with you next year.
We're going to talk more about that very off the air, I think, probably. We will do that.
I look forward to it.
Now I want to talk about V to the 10th and the V-Day celebration in New Orleans. But first, I think we better tell the audience what V-Day is and the connection with Eve Ensler and
Well, Eve Ensler and Jane Fonda and Oprah Winfrey and a host of the who's who of celebrity activists for the last 10 years have been hosting the Vagina Monologues, a very powerful live performance which just heightens awareness about the celebration of womanhood, the challenges of womanhood, and the pains of womanhood. And they had their 10th anniversary celebration in New Orleans. Every year when they do these, they pick a charity that they'll donate the proceeds to. And this year, being the 10th anniversary being in New Orleans, they dedicated their proceeds to helping to rebuild the Superdome. And it was a phenomenal several days of events. They brought in Katrina survivors who not only got to go to the educational seminars, but they actually had body massages for them, and they got their nails done and their hairs done, and all of this was free to Katrina survivors, and it was very powerful. But the play itself is it's an awareness heightening thing that really gives insight into the challenges of being a woman, the joys of being a woman, and it was just phenomenal. And I had the honor of being on one of the panels that they had for men, and it was a very powerful panel. There was an NFL football player who has a charity. There were two authors of books. There was a UCLA professor and myself, and we got a chance to explore this notion of a new emerging strength among men who want to eliminate violence against women.
And that was the focus of the panel?
The focus of the panel was really kind of why aren't more men involved? And, our responses, my response was that I think most men don't know that they need to be. Most men don't think there's anything wrong with their attitudes toward women. Most men like me think if they haven't hit, if they haven't raped, if they haven't consciously discriminated against a woman, that they're one of the good guys. And then when you dig deeper into, how you contribute to that culture, if you're open to it, you will re-examine some of your practices and some of your attitudes and realize that you have more adjustments to make, just as I did.
Okay, Stephen, hold that thought. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want you to tell me about your conversation with Jane Fonda.
Okay.
Ask the experts. Call toll-free right now, 1-866-472-5787. And ask our all-star team to answer your question. That's 1-866-472-5787.
Thank you for calling.
VoiceAmerica.com. After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime: How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.fightsafe.com for more information. You'll also find information there on Susan's upcoming Crime Prevention 101 personal safety teleseminars. Think fast, talk fast, fight smart, which stress the many opportunities you have to deter or defuse a criminal encounter and how to use your brains instead of your muscles in a fight. Look for the new book information or sign up for Susan Bartelstone's personal safety seminars at www.fightsafe.com today.
In the spirit of Have Couch Will Travel, Dr. Carol Lieberman creates a haven of sanity in an increasingly insane world. Each day we are bombarded with news of events that have never crossed our wildest nightmares. Society is spiraling out of control and everyone is reeling from it. But now there's an answer. The best way to keep sane in this insane world is to tune in to Dr. Carol's Couch on Voice America. Dr. Carol, a certified media psychiatrist, will broadcast live from her Beverly Hills office every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Call or log in and get help with whatever is sending you reeling, whenever you need a soothing voice to calm and advise you. That's Dr. Carol's Couch every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time here on America's Voice, voiceamerica.com.
Hey, how you doing? Educational videos, top quality, right here.
You'll never hear anyone selling education on the street.
Yo, what's up, baby? Want to learn some history? I got live learning, beautiful books inside.
And don't expect anyone to just offer you an education.
Who needs a high school diploma, huh?
And fortunately, you can't buy a diploma from some guy with a briefcase. But there is one way you can get the educational skills you and your family need for free, with free family learning programs. Call 1-877-FAMLET-1 for information on free GED, computer training classes, and other family learning programs. That's 1-877-FAMLIT-1.
Check it out, check it out. You want your GED right here, guaranteed, ma. Come on, check it out.
After all, you can't get your education on the street. Free family learning programs from the National Center for Family Literacy. The first step to a better life. Brought to you by the National Center for Family Literacy and the Ad Council.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787.
That's it.
VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
And welcome back. And yes, indeed, this is Crime Prevention 101, and I am indeed Susan Bartelstone. And we're talking with my guest today, Stephen Glaude from Men Can Stop Rape. And we were talking about his experiences in New Orleans at the V-Day celebration, V to the 10th, which was the 10th anniversary celebration that was held in New Orleans. And you were on a panel. Were you on the panel with Jane Fonda, or this was?
No, I wasn't on the panel with Jane Fonda. Jane, of course, did multiple things during the weekend. But this was a moment for me because it was actually the first public presentation which I made in my new position as president of Men Can Stop Rape. And I was with a really illustrious panel of other men, two authors of books, a UCLA professor whose main body of study had been about this. And not only was I giving my first public presentation, but it was in front of several thousand enlightened women, which was...
I was just about to ask you that. How many people were at that?
Oh, there were tens of thousands, but at any given workshop, there were probably anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 persons in the audience.
Awesome.
It was hugely attended. It was a wonderful success. I mean, Eve Ensler just deserves so much credit for her vision, her tenacity, her ability to recruit and coalesce people behind us. I mean, she is a national treasure. She truly is, because without this, I think many of us would stay in our caves in terms of our thinking. Even her work has done a lot to awaken the consciousness of not only men, but to awaken the consciousness of women who themselves have been somewhat led into caves where they've stayed comfortably for decades.
And I actually was a volunteer for the V-Day organization, and they did a couple of programs in New York, some of these big celebration programs in New York. And I worked as a volunteer in Madison Square Garden for them, and I just love the work that they're doing and the message that they're getting out, not just about violence here, but violence all over the world.
That's exactly right.
It's awesome.
Because I think last year they had a charity abroad that they were raising money for. But anyway, back to this panel. So the panel ends, and I'm somewhere between okay, I definitely have passion about this. I definitely feel conviction. I survived the presentation in front of thousands of enlightened women. This resonates with me and for me. And as I walked off the stage, Jane Fonda was waiting for me. And she came up to me and she said, "Wow, Mr. Glaude, I can't." At that time, I'd only been on the job 3 months. And she said, I can't believe you've only been on the job, 3 months. You're going to be a wonderful spokesperson for this, and I'm doing a conference in Atlanta, and you have to come and speak at my conference. And next month I am going down to speak at Jane's conference in Atlanta.
Really? Now, what conference is this?
This is the Georgia Coalition Against Teen Pregnancy. It's called GCAP. It's the Georgia Coalition for Pregnancy Prevention, I believe, but it's an organization which Jane founded, and she continues to be very much involved in. It's a very powerful organization. It's the Georgia Campaign for Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention.
And you're going to be representing the male what men can do on this issue.
Right. I'm going to be representing Men Can Stop Rape, and I'm going to be talking about the men's role in healthy relationships.
Right.
I think the title of my presentation is An Intimate Conversation with Stephen Glaude. And I think they largely want me to share my own attitude about coming into this work and realizing that, I had been kind of comforted in thinking I was one of the good guys, but being one of the good guys means, again, so much more than just not hitting and not raping. There's so much more to being a good guy.
That is a powerful message, and I'm glad that you're getting these forums to give that message out there.
Absolutely. And then also down there, I had the opportunity to be on Gayle King's radio show with the Oprah Friends Network, and we had a very engaging conversation. And Gayle was very enlightened herself about the issues, and so it's been great exposure. Coming into a new body of work, one of the things that you look for is there a social appetite for what you're getting ready to do? And I have been so heartened coming into this field, being relatively new to it, to see that there is such a huge social appetite. I mean, the idea of men helping men be better men, who could possibly be against that?
That's right.
And so it's a wonderful organization. It's a wonderful body of work. But, the most encouraging thing of it all, I find that all the men that we engage are so open to and hungry for a better place themselves. Some of it has to do with not hurting women, but a lot of it has to do with just being better men. And so what's encouraging so much about this is that I think many men do want to be better men. And I want to quickly say, I know that some men consciously profit from the oppression of women. And I know that some men, know that they're not good guys. But I think there are many men who've been misled into thinking they are. And I think those of us who have a little more awareness about this, we have to recruit them first, and then we take on the ones that know they're consciously profiting from it. Mm-hmm. I think there are a whole host of men who like to go to bed at night, thinking that they're changing and that they're evolving and that they are a good guy. And I think we need to go after those first, because I think they're easily converted into a higher level of thinking about this.
And they're going to be your best advocates for what you're trying to do as well. Now, you sent me a question about men and women as allies, the first ever national conference on primary violence prevention. Now, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, when I came into this work, the men who had been doing this work longer than me, when I asked them, what are the major issues that our work will be challenged by? And I think that there are a couple of divides, if you will. I think that, there's always kind of a bait-and-switch game between those who serve as survivors and those who are trying to prevent things from happening in the first place. We are part of the same continuum around health and gender equity. And I don't think that we should be pitted against each other. So men and women as allies. I mean, women do the large body of work in working with survivors, and men work with survivors as well. And increasingly more men are getting involved in prevention. So men and women as allies is intended to show how we have to work together. The other divide that this work faces is somehow or another the federal government has segmented domestic violence away from sexual assault. Mm-hmm. Domestic violence is funded largely through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, while sexual assault is largely funded through the U.S. Department of Justice. And so we've been kind of siloed in different camps, and yet we're part of the same continuum. And so this conference is intended to bring together all of those divides, strengthen the fact that we are part of the same continuum, and look at how we partner and work together in ways so that we are providing comprehensive services, that we're, exhausting our efforts to prevent violations from occurring in the first place, but also maintaining the right and the need for survivors to have access to services and resources.
Now,
and it's going to be April 14th and 15th here in Washington, D.C. So far we've recruited, it's April 14th and 15th.
This next April?
Yes, in 2009.
April 14th and 15th?
2009.
2009.
And it's going to be at the Hyatt Regency on Capitol Hill.
I'm making my reservation now.
Good. And you know, we hope to have the next president of the United States come and speak to us. Reflecting that this is a national priority, and it's going to be an exciting conference. We've got over 20 domestic violence, sexual assault prevention coalitions, as well as other national and international organizations who've already signed up to co-sponsor the conference.
All right. Now, as soon as you have good information and people can start registering, you let me know. I'm going to post this up on my website.
That's great. And you know, people in the next week should be able to go to www.mencanstoprape.org, and there will be a link to the conference on our website as well. But I'll make sure that I get you information as well.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna do an email blast and send it out to my email list. Let's get you thousands of people, for men and women, as allies as well.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
I love that idea. All right, now we're coming up on our final break, Stephen, and when we come back from break, I want to talk to you about the contract that you got with the military.
Okay.
To do the programs there, and I'd like to talk a little bit about what this is obviously just a natural expansion for what you're going to be doing. So let's go to our break now. We're going to come back. Everybody, stay tuned. You are not going to want to miss the rest of this discussion with Stephen Glaude.
Have you ever thought about having your own internet talk show? Well, if you said yes, then click About Us. Then click Be a Host to get more information. Or just call Jeff Spinard at 480-294-6417.
Say that again?
480-294-6417. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hello, we're Mike and Susan.
Hello, I'm Catherine.
We are the March of Dimes 2008 National Ambassador family. Although Catherine was born extremely premature with many challenges, today she is a healthy 5-year-old thanks to the March of Dimes.
I'm Don Germano, Senior Vice President of Kmart Stores. Kmart is proud to support March of Dimes' mission to help moms have full-term pregnancies and healthy babies. Please make a donation at any Kmart or at marchforbabies.org so that one day all babies are born healthy.
Divorce, child custody, support, and visitation, division of property, attorneys, court. Just the thought of divorce is stressful enough. Never mind the combative, destructive, and expensive process. Is there a better way? Yes, divorce mediation. On Divorce Mediation, Myths and Facts, host Philip Mulford, one of the country's top divorce mediators, will discuss this incredibly successful alternative. Formerly a practicing attorney, Philip will explore the myths and facts about a process that has kept his clients out of court and saved them thousands of dollars. If you aren't familiar with divorce mediation, or your lawyer has told you it's not appropriate for your case, this show is for you. After listening to Divorce Mediation, Myths and Facts, you'll tell anyone considering a divorce, go to mediation first. Divorce Mediation, changing the culture of divorce.
After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime, How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.fightsafe.com for more information. You'll also find information there on Susan's upcoming Crime Prevention 101 personal safety teleseminars. Think fast, talk fast, fight smart, which stress the many opportunities you have to deter or defuse a criminal encounter and how to use your brains instead of your muscles in a fight. Look for the new book information or sign up for Susan Bartelstone's personal safety seminars at www.fightsafe.com today. News, opinion, your voice counts. Call toll-free 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
And welcome back, everybody. And we're finishing up our interview today with Stephen Glaude from Men Can Stop Rape. Before the break, we started to talk a little bit about what Men Can Stop Rape is going to be doing in the future, and I particularly wanted to talk about the contract that you got with the military. Can you just enlighten us about that?
Yes. Our campaign, My Strength Is Not for Hurting, pops up everywhere. We license agreements for people to use our messaging and our models and our posters. It just becomes a good reinforcement for efforts that others have to change people's opinions. And I think so. At any rate, we struck up a conversation with the Department of Defense, and of course, with all of the increasing stories and incidents that are being reported in the news and that are being experienced by enlisted personnel, some inside DOD were charged with addressing this. And so we're actually in the process this coming week of reshooting our posters with military personnel, and these anti-assault messages will be on every military installation in the world probably within the coming year. In addition to that, we've also assembled a team of experts that include experts within our organization and also experts from other organizations, which includes researchers and message testers and program developers. And we're actually going to be developing a comprehensive sexual assault strategy for all 5 branches of the United States military.
That is amazing. Now, can I just ask you, do you have any ideas about the scope of sexually assaulted female troops?
I don't. And the only thing I can share with you is that I don't think any of us know. I increasingly hear stories of how hidden it is, how oppressed it is, and so I don't think we can trust the reporting that we're getting. And so even to cite some of the numbers, I would tell you this, that in our discussions, in the general population, it's said to be about 8%. In the military, it's reported at about 6.7%. So it would suggest that in the military, it's lower than it is in the general population. But again, I'm just not sure that we can trust this reporting.
I actually think that's pretty significant because the number of women are less.
Right.
So
it is high. I mean, I go back to our original premise that one is too many, and so it is high now. Increasingly in the military, there are higher and increasing percentages of women being in the military, but it's not the same as it is in the general population, and we know that.
Now, are you going to do anything different that would be specifically targeted towards military personnel?
Well, we have to. I mean, just the title of our campaign, for example, our campaign says My Strength Is Not for Hurting. I don't know if you can use that with military because, in fact, their strength is for hurting. And so it might end up being an amended campaign that says, my strength is not for hurting my fellow Marine. Mm-hmm. It might be, respect.
She's not a woman, she's a soldier.
Right. Respect equals readiness. She's not a woman, she's a soldier. And we're going to be focus group testing with military and civilian personnel all the messages that we think might work. And we're going to come out of that with the absolute best message we can.
I think that is amazing.
It's great. It's such needed work, and it's also great work, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity. It is bothersome that someone could go into a branch of service, with the commitment to protect their country and find themselves at risk, not from an enemy abroad, but from a fellow bunkmate or whatever the case may be. And well, I do applaud the militaries, the people we've worked with inside the branches, as well as with the Department of Defense, have a sincere, genuine interest in coming up with reasonable, practical, applicable strategies to do this. And we're excited about this project. We think it will result in some new legislation to actually institutionalize assault prevention within the ranks of the military.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Stephen, for being on. I could go on talking to you for another hour.
I think we could go a while longer.
Now, just real quickly, people want to learn more about Men Can Stop Rape. They can go to mencanstoprape.org.
Yep.
Correct?
www.mencanstoprape.org.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm going to be posting a link to that on my website as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. We appreciate you so much. It's been a pleasure being with you today.
Oh, likewise. Now, Stephen, at the end of every show, I always tell people, I like to make sure that I tell people that for those of you out there that are listening who are already a survivor of the kind of crime that we are talking about today, or any kind of crime or violence, please understand that nothing that happened to you was your fault. Even if you think you used bad judgment or behaved stupidly in a situation and that left you vulnerable, that is never, never, never an excuse for crime or violence. And it's really, really important that you call yourself a survivor and not a victim, and that you understand that with the proper professional help, you can put what happened into perspective and get on with your life. And you got to believe me, because I have worked with thousands of survivors over the years, and I know it, and I've seen it happen. I also want to tell everybody that there's going to be show notes for this is show number 5 on my website, DearSafetySolutions.com. And in the show notes, I'm posting a link to the Men Can Stop Rape website, and I want you to especially look at their book recommendation section. They have some really great books out there for men and for boys, and there are books for women too, and you're going to want to get these books for the men in your life. And I've also posted an article from the Men Can Stop Rape website, and this article is titled 10 Things Men Can Do to End Men's Violence Against Women. And I want you to print out that article, and I want you to send that to every man and boy and woman that you know. Let's get that word out there. Now, you're also going to see on my website I've got a safety tip section, and on the safety tip section I've got facts about rape and facts about date rape that I think you might find of interest. And there's lots of other safety tips as well on that website, and I'm adding more every day, so keep checking back periodically to get the updates. Also, please remember that if you have a question to ask me or a comment about today's show, or if you have a safety concern that you would like my help with, and you can, this could be done either on the air or off the air, because I really want to make this show meaningful to everybody, and I want to touch on the areas that concern you. Just go to that website, DearSafetySolutions.com, and post it in the response box, and there's a link on the left side of the page. It's going to take you right to that place where you can post it. You could also just email me, and my email is solutions@fightsafe.com. And when you email, just use the header, "I'd like your help with the problem," and that way it's not going to get lost in my spam filter. And if you would like to read your question live to me, just put that in the email as well, and I can, because this show is pre-recorded, but we can arrange it with our producers to have you come on with me, and I would love to have my audience on with me. Very quickly, next week, I'm going to be talking about those dire emails that we all get. Now, you're not going to want to miss this. You know the ones, vital information, pass this on to every woman you know. Now, you know what? Most of them actually give bogus information. They're inaccurate, incomplete, and dangerous, and they should not be passed on to everybody you know. So I'm going to be debunking the most common ones, and I've got a really great expert, John Ratliff from BreakTheChain.org. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. Stay tuned and stay safe. It'd be a crime not to listen.
We hope you got some useful information and inspiration this week on Crime Prevention 101. Susan Bartelstone invites you to join us again next Saturday.